Hey guys, thank you for tuning back in to Nerd Word Order's 31 Days of Halloween! This thing's finally starting to gear up, and I think this is probably my favorite movie we've done so far, that we've done together anyways. I really liked 31 that I did, and I'm not a serial killer, but anyways, that's fine. Cube.
Such a good movie.
Such a good movie. One thing we're going to say right off the bat, spoilers. There's no way we can do this review without spoiling this movie, and
I wish so much that we could. I wish we could, but it's...
Okay, fine.
Knowing the movie, you can't.
We'll push the line. We're going to push the line and try to be as spoiler-free as possible. Now, this movie's been out since 1997, so if you haven't seen it, that's probably your fault. Chances are you haven't heard of it. It's worth it. Look it up. If you have not seen it, look it up.
If you have to make a comparison, because it's nothing like it in any way, if you absolutely must make a comparison, Saw before Saw happened. But even then, that is doing an extreme disservice to Cube.
Yes.
That's trying to find the thinnest string that can possibly link Cube to something that the modern American that hasn't seen this kind of movie would know.
I have another comparison. 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah, a different way, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that'd be another good comparison for it. It's a really just unique, atmospheric, creepy movie. You have to watch it. So
it's great for the opening scene of a movie called Cube, for the first person to get cubed.
yes, I mean, how fitting is that? It's roll credits right then and there. They do. They roll to the only opening credit there really is, which is Cube in a very abstract, slow kind of forming way. Yeah, it's just really artsy, spatial, weird way they bring about that title. Makes me think of Terminator, but not as loud with the music. Right from that title sequence, we finally get into the actual, I guess, meat and bones characters of the movie.
Yeah, and a lot of people will see... There are a lot of shots where it's just no talking, people aren't doing anything, the camera is changing from set at this angle to almost 90 degrees, shifting from cut to cut. A lot of people hate that in horror movies, and I love that in this movie.
It adds to it.
It makes it so great.
Yes, because what they're saying, while there is talking, and they are talking to each other, it's not really exposition. It's just very much clearing up what is obvious, but maybe not everyone's observant to. It's, hey, these are the characters' names. Hey, our names are written on our jackets. People may have noticed that, but if you're going to gripe about that, it's not that big of a deal.
Right, or they use it as suspense in between things without putting meaningless back and forth.
Yeah, no meaningless fluff dialogue. It's something to sit there and pass time between scenes so you can actually interact with the characters. Otherwise, this movie is very much just about the environment. If you take away the dialogue, there's still a great movie here that is purely environmental in the best, most intense way possible. However, keeping the dialogue, it's not heavy on exposition, it's not heavy on fluff dialogue, it's just good.
Right, yeah, and with that shot type that I was talking about, they use it to a point where you start to think, okay, you're almost about to overuse this. But they don't.
No.
They don't use it too much. They use it close to that point. It's almost the perfect amount that they use it.
Yes.
Like, they probably shot more and realized any more, and it just takes away from what's already laid down.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Real quickly, let's get a rundown of that main initial group of characters. Because obviously the group of characters is going to get subtracted as the movie goes on. This is still classified as a horror movie. So right away, we got this really great group of characters. What I really liked about it is almost immediately the first characters that anyone else in the room was like, oh, that's a character I like. It's like, all right, glad you like that character because here's what's going to happen.
They're dead.
They're dead. They're gone. But we got Ren, the master thief who's escaped 7 prisons. We've got... Worth, who seems like he absolutely just does not want to be there. He could not care less about existence, let alone being here. He doesn't want to be there, but he doesn't care.
Yeah, he is that person that is under the thought of resistance is futile. If I resist, all I do is harm myself. I might as well just sit here and die.
Yeah, he just lays down and might as well, yeah, just basically give up. Then next we've got the first of our female characters, and this is where we start getting really into archetypes. I guess Worth would be kind of the archetype of apathy. Holloway is the nurturing archetype, the maternal one.
Which is weird because while she is that nurturing character that tries to make sure that people are okay and brings them along and helps them get through things, she's also a huge conspiracy theorist, crazy, like, how do you
possibly survive in like normal situations being this batshit insane?
Right.
Like, you clearly cannot handle even talking to us in a slightly tense situation. What happens when you get tense in the real world?
Right, it's just like, shit, this is the government. The government is watching us. Government, they're under every sort of everything bad that happens,
yes,
including this.
And she's a doctor.
And yeah, and she's a doctor. That's kind of a spoiler, but it's not really important. It's not important to her character other than to just they have a big show and tell at the beginning. Hey, this is my name. This is what I do.
It's essentially the reason why she's able to calm down Kazan so easily.
Yes, and Kazan is a character who, while he's not in the initial party, it's not long until he's introduced.
No.
And Kazan's a very interesting archetype because I kind of put him as the idiot savant, or the fool, but the genius fool.
Right.
He's that character who doesn't add much dialogue-wise because he's clearly not as socially or mentally on par with the other characters, but in his own way, he is superior, and the characters could not survive without Kazan being there.
Right, which is phenomenal because I haven't seen this movie in years. I have only seen it one time before just watching it again now. Most of the time, I've seen movies multiple times. Having not seen this movie for such a long time and having only seen it once before this, having him as my favorite character makes me realize how much of an easy favorite character he is, but how great of a favorite character he is at the same time.
Absolutely. He's so great because the actor does such a great job. Clearly, it's an actor who normally he doesn't have a mental handicap of any kind, but he does an extraordinary job of delivering that character with just the right level of realism and humor. It teeters because there's a lot of performances that get too campy. He doesn't make it too campy. Right. You believe that, okay, this guy could be an actual savant. I could see him being able to crack these numbers out and at the same time caring about bags of gumdrops.
Right. And what helps is the tapping of his
wrist, or the little heads. Twitches, the rubbing of the head, all those telltale things that if you've ever been around someone with those kind of handicaps in real life, those are real things. Then it's those great little things. I wish there was more little things to take note of about the actual environment. But the environment's a lot of big things. There's nothing little about that.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
The best part is every time, and I don't know if this falls in the spoiler territory or not, every time the group thinks that they know exactly how this contraption that they're inside of works, they realize it doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Because the method that they've been using to survive then gets used to kill one of them or, do close to that to make them realize you guys are a bunch of idiots that managed to get extremely fucking lucky.
Yeah. Now, at this point, I realize we've left out two other characters, but I almost don't want to bring them up because I feel like they would be spoiler territory because it's arguably that those two characters, even just bringing up their names so you know about them, is bad because they're both extremely important to the story in opposite directions. One is clearly a good, impactful force that's driving them towards the inevitable potential of freedom. The other one is clearly derailing everything because they can't put their crap to the side. Right. They have to dominate the situation, even if it means death for everybody.
Right, and at one point, bringing to the situation of, they're not confident in what they believe in, so pick a random person. They're a traitor. They know exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
Let's blame everything on them.
Typical straw man strategy. Find the person, exploit them. Everything is their fault. They're the scapegoat, the fall person now. Try to turn the group on them. And this movie does a great job of pointing out how, in a very tight situation like that, that kind of mentality doesn't work. It only works when there's a lot of people. When there's very few people, you look at that person, you can see how unhinged, how crazy they are, and you're like, I'm not going to listen to you. You're clearly insane. There's no way you know what you're talking about.
It's the comparison of a group of 4 or 5 trapped in a situation, or, and I almost hate to make this comparison, or a riot of 50 to 100 people where it just takes one person saying, fuck you, and throwing the first stone to set the whole group off in this chain reaction that destroys everything in their path.
I can agree with that. I think there's actually one perfect comparison, and I'm going to reach out to a movie that definitely isn't going to make our list, but is worth talking about. And that's Stephen King's adaptation, the adaptation of the Stephen King story, The Mist, with Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
The situation where you have that woman in the convenience store, because there's only so many people, or the hardware store, whatever it is, and she starts trying to do exactly that. This is that, but in the opposite extreme.
Like, she is that holier than thou.
Yeah.
I am the savior of this situation.
Everyone has to listen to me because I am the righteous one and I know how we'll be all saved. And this is there's that same confidence, that same like zealous belief in yourself, but at the same time, nobody else has that confidence in this character.
Right.
That's great. How do we feel about the ending of this movie?
I love it. There are points that could be better that, and like I said, it's been a while.
Mhm.
If memory serves me right, they even address those points in the next movie in Hypercube.
Yes, Cube to
But-
Hypercube.
Just watching this movie on its own, you hit that ending, and there are questions left unanswered.
Yes.
You know, what is on the outside? What is behind this?
Yeah.
You know,
Because
sort of
even
thing.
at some point in the movie, we get a character that reveals obviously they had some involvement with this, but their involvement is completely anonymous. They're like, look, I didn't ask questions. It was a job. I took a job and I just did the thing, okay?
Right.
I wasn't asking who was building this or what they were building it for.
Right, and it's even they even make that comparison. They say, you know, keeping the left hand separated from the right hand so that nobody knows what the other is working on, so that nobody realizes that, you know, the brain is doing this ridiculous thing that is awful and terrible.
Yes. And that's what's truly great about this movie, is because as the movie goes on, it becomes more horrifying in a grander scale. Whereas the individual scenes are horrifying because of their graphic nature, it's still mostly psychological until you get to the end, because the end is so damn vague. It's one of those kind of creepy endings because it's so sterile and free of everything. Is it good, or is it like absolute destruction? We don't know what's happening when they're walking into the light. We don't know what is on the other side, and that's terrifying because we know obviously this is a huge thing. This is bigger than a group of people. This is bigger than possibly even a organization. This is like national or maybe even worldwide level kind of stuff to make something like this go off without a hitch.
I feel like maybe the more of the direction that the director was trying to go is that you saw this harsh reality, and they kind of played upon that white pure ending where it's just like you want good things to happen, but then there's this like worldwide cultural phenomenon where we're scared of too much good.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and so like the ending's almost probably more startling than anything else I saw in the movie, just because it's like, no, too good to be true. I know.
You didn't feel good about it. You felt uneasy about
I
it.
can live in the cube and cope with that. But
Yes.
yeah, when the ending is like this freedom, they rejected it. And it's just scary. It's like Plato's the allegory for the cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that is because of the atmosphere that this movie delivers. The cube itself delivers an atmosphere that even one particular character that doesn't particularly die in the movie, they don't have a death scene, they're so injured by the time they get to that ending, they don't even try to get out of the cube. They're happy to just sit there and make sure other people survived and die right there because they're not comfortable with what's seeing beyond.
Right. And one part that I love that you don't even realize unless you're thinking about it on that subconscious level is, to a degree, we're taught red is bad, green is good, blue is overall good, but kind of neutral. You get in this movie, and it very much plays off of those colors and shows you, like, that's not at all the case. You go into a red room, you might be safe. This room is green,
You might die.
you might die. You might get just killed in the
Yeah.
most gruesome way possible.
It's a movie that it plays on your over exaggerated sense of security.
Right. Things that you don't think about, but on a deep down level, drive your decisions simply through color based thoughts.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have to do this very quickly because I think we're kind of running to the end of our time here. So, obviously, if you like this video, guys, give us the thumbs up. You didn't like it, thumbs down, but you have to leave a comment. That's the rule. Subscribe, that would do us a big favor. You can follow each of us. Now, final ruling. What are we rating Cube, the 1997 classic with a obviously not stupendous budget, but very, very small cast, which obviously saved money so they could have this awesome atmosphere. What do we think of this movie?
And those thoughts make it so hard to make the decision because it does fall between, in my mind, it falls between the low of a 7, which sounds super low for this movie with how great it was, and the high of a 10. Coming down to it, I have to make it minimum 8.5, probably sitting at a 9. But throughout time, it does fall. It varies between there, but a solid 9.
Solid 9. All right. I'm going to say for me, it teeters between a 6.5 and a 9.5. Doesn't quite reach that 10. There are too many things that are just too ambiguous about it. So I'm going to give it a solid 8. Solid 8. I think overall it's good as a horror movie, better as a psychological thriller, and overall a must watch. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been a fun one.